We all set? Okay. All right, let's call the December meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. Okay, approval of the minutes from last month. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. John.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, privilege of the floor. Is there anybody here for privilege of the floor? Nobody here for privilege of the floor? All right, then, number one, proposed resolution, authorize acceptance of indigent legal services grant distribution, number 14, for the period of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman. Derek Gregory, Assistant Public Defender for the Public Defender's Office. This resolution seeks approval from the legislature to give the county executive authority to execute a new contract for Distribution 14. We've been receiving these monies for various expenditures for the previous 12 years. There's no matching funds involved, and the revenue has been accounted for and budgeted in the 2024 budget.
You've been here before, Derek.
Thank you.
Okay, committee questions of Derek on the grant? Okay, Derek, just one question. Okay, this again, this is a huge amount, almost $40,000. This is for assistant public defenders, mostly?
Well, it pays for the partial salary and fringe for a criminal division public defender, the partial salary for a family court public defender. It pays the partial salary at least in years 2 and 3 for the public defender's salary and fringe himself. Where you see zeros on the budget attachment, there's funding for where those zeros show up in other distributions. For some reason, these expenditures have been claimed over several distributions that we have operating at the same time. It also pays for the salary and fringe for a secretary administrative assistant, and for the increase in family court hours from 35 to 40 hours a week.
Okay, so this amount is mostly for salaries?
Yes.
Okay. All right, committee, any other questions? Derek, I think you're done.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, next proposed resolution, amend 2023 budget for Office of the Sheriff, Navigation, Snowmobile Department.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Jim Quattrone, Chautauqua County Sheriff. This resolution we're asking to increase our appropriation accounts by $4,300 and increase our revenue accounts by $4,300. Purpose for this is a new dive boat was purchased through Emergency Services. The $4,300 is to.
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
It's for a dive boat. So for the water emergency team or the wet team,
Okay.
it's a joint team between the fire service and the sheriff's office. So the emergency services is purchasing. I think it's being built this month. Currently being built, but what wasn't included is the fabric enclosure for the vessel and the graphics for the vessel. So the fabric enclosure would be $2,800, and the graphics is $1,500.
Jim, so for clarification, this is part of the navigation, part of this department.
That is correct. I neglected to say, we did sell an old navigation boat earlier in the year, and we had $72,400. So that's where this money will be coming from.
Committee, questions of Sheriff Quattrone?
Does this boat replace the boat you sold?
No. So the boat we sold was, and I can't tell you the make, it was a vessel that had been costing us a lot of money to keep running. And not only that, it was difficult. We had to have 2 to 3 operators, and we really didn't even have the operators to operate the vessel. The continually incurring costs ended up just not being beneficial. So that's why that was sold.
Committee, any other questions? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. All right, next, authorize execution of NYS Office of Homeland Security State Law Enforcement Terrorism Prevention Program grant for fiscal year 2023.
So this grant we've continued to renew. It pays for a portion of our radio technician, Corey Leitmeister. So that's personnel is $15,000 and fringes $10,000, and it's also going to be used for the purchase of a vehicle, a communications vehicle, to replace one of our current vehicles. So half of the $34,750, half of the vehicle cost is coming out of this year's through this grant, and then the other half will come out through next year's.
Okay. Let's see, Jim, this is included in the 23-24 budgets?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
And I'm getting the nod, so I was looking at Jennifer on that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's a good go-to person.
Yes.
Committee, questions of the sheriff on this grant, this proposed resolution? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next, authorize agreement with the town of Hanover for enhanced police protection services for fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025. Multiple years.
Multiple years, so we don't continue to have headaches. We talking with the incoming supervisor, he had requested this. We've been going back and forth. We made some modifications reducing the contract for this year, or I'm sorry, for 2024 by $39,000, and agreeing to a 2-year term with a modest increase for 2025 to cover the increase in salaries and other costs that we would expect to increase by a small amount.
Committee, questions on this one?
No, Jim, I just want to say thank you for all your hard work on this.
Yeah.
Being the highway superintendent in the village of Silver Creek, you hear a lot of people are asking me questions and stuff, and I just thought you guys did an outstanding job in negotiating this.
Communication is key. If people are willing to communicate, we can get a lot more accomplished.
So we've read in the paper. And Jim, in this, again, this does include the village of Silver Creek, too.
Yeah, so the contract is with the town of Hanover, and then
okay.
There's an agreement between Hanover and the village of Silver Creek.
Okay.
So I think they split it evenly, but we've gotten out of that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And actually, in years past, our agreement actually used to be with Silver Creek, and it
I
covered
remember.
Hanover, so it's flip-flopped a little bit,
Okay.
so.
All right. Okay. Committee, any other questions of Jim on this? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Jim. Thank you. You'll be, okay, all right. Okay, next proposed resolution, amend 2023 OES budget for fiscal year 2020 SHSP grant. Okay, Bonnie and Noel, thanks. But for the record,
Noel Gutman, Director of Emergency Services.
Bonnie Peters, Principal Account, Emergency Services.
Okay, folks, what do we have here?
So, the first one we're bringing to you is, part of a grant that we are, bringing in for an expense as well as the revenue portion. It is for, tech rescue for,
For some specialized technical rescue equipment that we were able to purchase off the grant. Be used in multitude of different emergency situations.
Okay, committee, questions of Noel or Bonnie? Guys, just one quick question. This is for $8,000 basically, but the award was for $139,000. So where's the rest of the grant going to?
so we have I believe, used up most of this grant, if not all of it. I'm pretty sure that this is the remainder.
This
of
is
the
just
grant.
what's left?
The SHSP grant, there's 35% of it goes to the sheriff's office, I believe. It's a lot of that grant is used for some others. It's used for a lot of different aspects of our office, with some salary
So
and
it's
different
split
equipment.
between other departments other than you guys?
Sheriff's office, yes.
Okay.
By law, the law enforcement agency, I think, gets 35% of it.
And this is basically what's left?
Correct.
Yes, so, what happened is it was actually, termed August 31st, but we didn't get the equipment in time. We had already had it, purchased, but the equipment didn't come in, so we had to get it extended.
An extension?
Right,
Okay.
exactly, so, yeah.
To the end of February
Right.
2024? Okay. Okay, committee, any other questions on this one? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Next, amend 2023 OES budget for fiscal year 2022 SHSP grant.
So again, this is, budget neutral. We, expensed out some items and are bringing the revenue in, as well for this grant.
You gave us some specialized rescue equipment on this one as well.
Committee, questions?
Yeah, well, just kind of wondering what specialized equipment.
It's a new style high and low pressure airbag. You could be used in a lot of different rescue scenarios. It is the only one actually that exists right now in Western New York. We're the only agency that has one, so there's a high probability of being used by a multitude of services that could benefit from it. That's part of one of the things that we do with our specialized teams. Is the teams exist to support in our case, our 42 fire departments. Sometimes by buying equipment off these grants that the local departments don't have to buy, and then we can support them by owning it and exercising and responding with it as needed.
Okay.
What'd you say this was again, Noel?
It's a new style specialized high pressure airbag that lifts very high. So it's ideally in some vehicle extrication scenarios, heavy equipment extrication scenarios, building collapse, trench collapse, those type of scenarios. This is something that will improve efficiency and time the way we would have normally done it before.
Do you need this for the highway department?
Oh, it'd make changing tires and very, very quick.
There you go, there you go, there you go. Okay, committee, any other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, authorize agreement with Village of Fredonia and amend OES 2023 budget.
So this was part of our hazard mitigation planning grant, and as this grant moved forward, there were a lot of there were different aspects that came. The company Barton Laguitas, they're very diligent in their job, and one of the things that we identified was a need to include some additional high hazard dams, specifically to include the Fredonia Reservoir. And being that it really was very focused on the Fredonia Reservoir, I spoke with Chief Myers from the Fredonia Fire Department, who's working on behalf of them. And they agreed that since that addition really was focal point of them. They wanted to be able to pay for that. So, you know, we were able to get a price that would cost Barton Laguitas to do that $3,000 to include that Fredonia Reservoir in that hazard mitigation planning grant. And this is essentially so that we can get that rolling forward and get the contract in place and accept, you know, that money from Fredonia to do so.
Okay. And this is for the hazardous mitigation plan.
Yeah, it's for that. It's part of the. It'll be an annex to the hazard mitigation planning grant that we've talked about numerous times. For all the municipalities are part of it, and this was just as the planning process of it was going forward, this was something that just came up. That's like, wow, this needs to be specifically included in here with a special annex.
And they agreed to pay for it.
Yep, they wholeheartedly wanted to be able to cover it, and this is how we were able to do so.
We'll take it. Committee questions on this proposed resolution? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Next, we have proposed resolution for fiscal year 2023, Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG.
So this is a grant that we are asking for the county exec to accept, and the revenue and expenses for the grant were already included in our '24 adopted budget.
And Bonnie, this runs through 2025, it looks like, so it's a 3-year grant?
Right.
Okay.
Mhm, yes. And it's a required match from the county. That is expenses that we already occur.
Okay.
So it's not any additional expenses on our.
Is it in-kind stuff?
Mhm,
Oh,
yeah,
in-kind,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the amount for each year?
Yeah.
Okay, is that what,
No.
no,
the-
that's
the
spread out
whole-
over 3 years.
The whole amount is for the 49,000,
Okay.
but we anticipate using we have put the expenses for the whole amount in our 24 budget.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Mark, did you have anything? No, okay, all right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. And next we have proposed resolution for fiscal year 2023, State Homeland Security Program, SHSP.
So this one, again, we are asking for the county exec to be able to accept this. We do not anticipate using all of this in our '24 budget,
Okay.
but a portion of the revenue and the expense were included in our '24 adopted budget.
And it runs, Bonnie, runs through 2025 and 2026?
Yep,
Okay,
2 more years.
yeah.
This is one of those grants every year that, you know, again, this is the SHSP grant. This is, 35% to law enforcement, and, a mainline grant that we rely on.
Okay, committee questions on this one? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, folks, under other, we're going to have a short discussion with the sheriff on one of his, what is this, Jim, a new program? Or
Propose a new program.
proposed new program, okay, I stand corrected. And you've talked to the village, I think, already about this, or?
So, yeah, it's what we're calling right now, it could change, but a community reentry hub. So this is for returning citizens from the jail. So I did meet with the mayor a couple months ago and met with him and talked to him about finding the locations. this idea of a reentry hub we've been talking about it with,
Mayor of Jamestown?
no, I'm sorry, the mayor of Mayville.
Mayville, okay.
Mayville, yeah. So,
Everything's changed now.
Okay.
in what we wanted to do
I was born there.
is we've had, since I've been in the sheriff's office since 1987, and probably since 1939, or maybe even 1809, when the jail was initially built in the parking lot over here, people complaining about inmates being released, going in businesses, panhandling, stealing bicycles and going to people's house and sitting on their porch. True story. But anyways, what we did is the jail with the medically assisted treatment, the mandate that we do that, as well as with that comes, we had the mandatory discharge planning for those who are being released when we have time to do that. And I say that is sometimes people are released before they even have a chance to meet with our reentry specialist in the jail. So I'm just going to read. Just because I had something typed up for the village, and that we've sent that. Mr. Proctor has a copy, and I neglected to bring copies for everybody. But it says the purpose of the reentry hub is not only to allow individuals being released from the Chautauqua County Jail an opportunity to reorganize their lives, but also to improve safety of the surrounding community. 95% of those released from jail return to the same communities they were living in and before they came to jail. Many are released from the jail and end up wandering around the village trying to cash checks, charge cell phones, ask for money, and some commit crimes in the village. All things we've heard complaints from in the community in the past. Unfortunately, the sheriff's office has no authority over the individuals once they are released, and we are unable to force them to leave the village or just to do the right things. The reentry hub would be an endeavor to solve some of the issues by offering a safe for community and released individuals, a place to begin their healthy assimilation back into the community. The reentry hub will be staffed by county employees and volunteers. Now, those individuals that choose to utilize the facility will be monitored by the staff to prevent illegal activities from occurring. There will be no overnight guests staying at the facility, and this will be a place that they can await their transportation back to their home community, either by private vehicles or CHQ transit. Those who choose to utilize the facility are individuals who are desirous of getting the needed assistance and a fresh start in their life. Some of the services that we plan to offer is a place to wait for transportation to their community of preference, a place to get their CHQ pass and wait for CHQ transit, a place to charge your phones and make telephone calls, work with a reentry specialist to review a discharge plan or to create a reentry plan. Staff can assist in reviewing the needs for photo identification and other basic needs, assistance with DSS applications, a list of food pantries and other services that will be assist in successful reentry, education on overdose prevention and the particular dangers for those leaving the jail, communication and video conferencing with New York Matters, which is critical for many who are leaving the jail, a clothes closet for returning to the community, appropriate clothing and coats. So many people will come into the jail in the summertime and now they're released. They don't have adequate clothing, or quite honestly, many are released after being in there and maybe have put on a few extra pounds and they don't have clothes that fit them. That happens probably more often than the other.
We're feeding them that well? Oh,
Yes.
boy. Oh, boy.
Yes.
Okay.
We're just feeding them because they weren't eating.
Well, you're going to see a weight gain. No, but in
just kidding,
reality,
Jim.
when you
I'm
have
just
somebody who's
kidding.
been using drugs and now they're in the jail cleaning up, they're not. That is a weight gain.
Bob thinks we might need an elliptical for some of these
There you
folks
go.
there. Okay.
Connect individuals with housing, shelters, warming centers, respite housing, temporary emergency housing. Gather information from the individuals for follow-up. And then it's a source of information regarding various services, behavioral health clinics, warming centers, Chautauqua Works, MHA, et cetera. But the idea here is ideally we'll remove some of the issues of the released individuals wandering the village and hanging out in businesses, bothering customers or employees. And ideally, it will release the various thefts around the village or other criminal acts. One of the village residents had foiled information from the jail on the number of releases. Again, I don't have the exact number, but roughly over the last 5 years, there was a little over 9,000 people released from the jail. And I haven't seen the breakdown, but she had a breakdown of days and times and, weekends. Well, about, I think she said 1,400 or 1,500 have been released on weekends or evenings or holidays, and or weekends or holidays, which I believe for those numbers, they came from us, and I have no doubt that those are accurate. Over roughly the same 5-year period, we've had approximately 18,000 bookings into the jail. But of those 18,000 bookings over the last 5 years, for about 4,800 people account for those. So what we're seeing is about a 50% recidivism rate, which is better than it was, several years ago. And, not all of them, so it's about an average of 5.5 people, or 5.5 arrests or getting booked into the jail per individual. We did have one that had, I believe, 55 different bookings over the 5-year period. But the reason I think that's important is I firmly believe that something like this, when we can get people that will follow up on their reentry plan, currently we have, I suspect, closer to a 90 to 95% failure on following up on the reentry plan. So if we can improve that, reduce the recidivism, which also means less people coming to the jail in Mayville, less people being released into the community. I will say, as Mr. Proctor knows, there's considerable opposition from village. I'm not even sure if they're all residents, but at least the business owners on South Erie Street. The location we were looking at was at 28 South Erie, which has been a vacant storefront right off the village green. That we're not set in stone. We have not made any agreement with them. We've talked to them and toured the building. It's an ideal place because of the location. Unfortunately, inmates probably are not likely going to, somebody suggested the old school, but to walk up the hill to the school, they're probably not going to make that effort. So we are looking for other locations that would be fitting. But, we've, so that's where we are with that. We have support from many of the county agencies that deal with the individuals with the MAT treatment. Our public health director, past and current, are very supportive of it. Mental hygiene, health and human services, our reentry coordinator. I was asked last night what other sheriff's offices or counties are doing this. I only know of one for sure, and that's Suffolk County, and they actually have 3 centers like this, and I'm not sure if they have 3 different jails. Suffolk County's a little bit bigger. I texted back and forth with the sheriff down in Suffolk County last night, and just to talk to him to find out. We're going to have a conversation this week, just see how successful it is. But I do know on his social media, it's something that he's very proud of, and stating on his social media that it's a very successful program. So, and he used to be the commissioner or deputy commissioner at Rikers Island before he was a sheriff in Suffolk County.
Would it be possible, I mean, if, that when they get released, that we transport them up to the hill and to the school building there? So
There's,
they go there and they're kind of.
it could be possible if we had transportation. Quite honestly, they get released at all different times, and to make sure that we have somebody there. We've often offered transportation, and quite, I get a little concerned at times doing the transports because now they're no longer in our custody. We have no authority over them, but very seldom will people accept a ride in a police car. They're getting out of jail. They want to disassociate with that. So.
Would it be additional staff you would need, or what would the cost of something like that?
So, in talking to some of the various county agencies, we would not be adding additional staff. We would be assigning staff that's already there putting office space. So they would share office space over there instead of, and I'll use public health because I've talked with them, Lacey, she talked about, and I'm not sure what position it would be, but, possibly having an office there. Possibly a public defender's office who has some reentry staff. Just ideas that we've talked about. We do have the COSAP grant with a CARES coordinator. That's part of the COSAP grant. And that would be his office there. And then, ideally, we'd also have volunteers at the same time. Currently we have approximately 65 to 70 volunteers at the jail. They're not there every day, but this would give them another opportunity to participate in some outreach for them.
Sounds good.
I think,
Okay.
well,
Committee questions, Marty?
yeah, I've had quite a few people call me concerned, as you might imagine, last night, and they discussed it. There was a lot of discussion on it at the end of the meeting after you had left. I think most people are in favor.
As long as it's
of
not in
the
their backyard.
program, well, as long as it's not on Main Street.
Yeah.
They want that, they don't want that building to be utilized.
So I think a great opportunity, and this is just an idea, which I'm not sure we could do it, open it up as a storefront. And there's a model out there called Homeboy Industries, that is run by formerly incarcerated individuals. So you open it up as a storefront and have formerly incarcerated individuals. You can use it as a training center. The back part of it or the upstairs of it can be used for the purposes we're doing, if we wanted to go that route. We are one of the people that has storefront in that area, has another location. We have briefly talked about that. That's just as close, maybe even a little closer. I'm being vague on it because we had not really said anything, but it was his suggestion, and so that there is a possibility with that. As I stated last night, we have no agreement with the person that owns the property. We have talked to them several times and toured the building, and haven't followed up with any type of agreement at this point because we wanted to present it to the public. And briefly this morning, the mayor and I texted and plan to do another community forum. We don't have a date set on that, but where we can get the information out. I know there were some people that were disappointed that not more people were there last night. Quite honestly, I was surprised at the number of people that were there, but because we didn't decide we were going to be doing that meeting until last Tuesday or Wednesday, and try to get some letters out to some of the businesses on Friday, just so they knew. And but by no means did we get it out to everybody on the block. So the mayor and I, texted this morning about doing another community forum to answer some questions, and hopefully by then, we can have a more solid location on that.
I think the thing that took me by surprise was you said it was about 2 months away from implementation.
I would absolutely would have liked it to be done 3 months ago.
Sure.
And part of that is the grant money. We've had a couple different locations. Ironically, like you mentioned, some of the people who were very supportive, and honestly, some of the people who are right on that block when we were over there visiting and touring the building were very supportive of the program. So I was taken aback a little bit by some of their non-support of it. We thought we were actually even going to have a partner in one of those businesses. So,
who's going to head up the program? Keep it running, and
sure.
How's that going to?
Yeah, we have so in our jail we have collaboration with mental hygiene, with Health and Human Services, and we also have a COSAP grant with a coordinator with that. So it'll be a combination of those people. Ultimately, our office will be overseeing that, and the staff in the jail.
So that,
It's not a single leader, it's gonna be,
There'll be multiple people, but there'll have to be a single leader, so that ultimately will fall upon me.
Okay, so Jim, to follow up on John's question, does the sheriff's department actually have a grant for this program?
Yes,
You do?
yes.
Okay.
That's
100%,
my question.
or does the county have to pick up 50%? Is it a
Now, the
share
grant,
thing?
we've already got the grant, so there's no
It's
additional cost.
100%?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Now, and when I say that, so when I mentioned having some of the other county agencies
Yeah.
staffing,
Yes, okay.
that's not covered by the grant. That they're already working.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure if they're being paid by grant money, but other grants, but
Yeah,
not this
okay,
grant.
Okay.
so would the grant pay for the facility then?
Well, it pay for
Yearly,
facility.
or are we buying or renting this space?
Yeah, I have no intention of purchasing. It would be a lease or a rental. And part of the reason, at this point, we have no interest in purchasing, and I don't know that we ever would, is we would like to make sure the program's going to work and be
You don't need
effective.
you don't need a realtor?
No, sorry, Terry.
I'm just thinking.
Our hand of bolt is just.
Hey, easy. Okay, committee, any other questions of Jim on this?
We're talking about leasing the entire building.
That's correct. I don't think there's any way to divide it up,
Yeah,
so.
because last night you said you really didn't need a lot of space for the people.
Correct.
Now we're talking about offices for mental health and the public defender and so forth.
Yeah, we would want staff there, and not saying that they're all going to be there at the same time. So, we would always want to have some paid staff, ideally some volunteer. Again, we don't know what the numbers are going to be. It's one day we might have 5 or 6 people showing up, and other days we may have none. Yeah.
And I guess the other concern, and I'm for the program
Mhm.
as a concept, it's just, the program was gonna run basically during normal business hours, Monday through Friday, when the problems seem to be when prisoners are released after carts buses are running, or weekends or holidays when that won't be there.
Well, ideally, we would not be running normal business hours, but they wouldn't be out 24 hours. And I will say that unless we find it's being effective. I know that's one of the complaints that was last night. It's not going to be 24 hours. Right now, it's 0 hours. We have nothing. People are released from the jail. There's no place. I mean, they get a CARTS pass or a CHQ transit pass. Whether they utilize that is a different story. Oftentimes you'll find them over at Crosby's, trying to charge your phone, trying to use the phone call, at different establishments. And, as I said last night, we're trying to come up with a solution. Many people at the meeting feel that it's a government issue. I think that's part of the problem. If we think it's a government issue and we rely on the government to solve the problems, sadly, I don't think that's going to work. So.
Jim, on the releases, okay, are people released from the jail after 5 o'clock and before 8 o'clock in the
They
morning?
can be released from the jail 24 hours a day.
Really? 1,
Yeah.
2, 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, so, and that maybe, in the middle of the night, generally they're not being released. For a sentenced inmate, when their release date comes up, if it's, I don't know what the date is, if their release date is the 14th of December
Okay.
at 12:01,
They could be
they
released.
could be released. And some of them know at 12:01, they're going to go out the door.
Oh,
That's
oh,
actually the easy ones, because if we know when they're going to be released, we can make arrangements to get them picked up.
really? Okay.
Some of the problem is the centralized arraignment is, so if county police agencies that are making arrests, they get somebody that they want to have arraigned, they bring them to the jail for centralized arraignment. So twice a day, there are arraignments. There's a morning arraignment between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. and an evening one, I believe is 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Sometimes it could be closer to 7 p.m. that they're doing the arraignment. Sometimes it could be closer to 10. That's where, you know, we're going to be seeing some of the numbers. So what we want to do is, if we get this program going, is to look at the time the majority of people are being released, the bulk of those hours, and have those are the hours that we're going to have people there.
So as part of the program, the released prisoners come back a week later to talk to people?
No, it's to connect them with services in their home communities. So, yeah, we're not bringing in any new, the only new people that we're going to be hopefully be getting in is additional volunteers that are going to be coming up to help with the program. So, but not program. You may get people who are already up here, you know, for services, you know, some of the other facilities that may stop in there. And I'm just saying that is because based on my previous experience in a program that we ran in Jamestown, you know, we would have successful candidates that go through the program, and when they're back in town, stop in just to talk. As I think I mentioned last night, you know, we can't force anybody to go over to the program. We would want to try to encourage people to come over there to get that process started. You know, so we would want some incentive for them to come over, and that might be just not having to sit out in the cold. That might be to be able to charge their phone or get a cup of coffee while they're waiting for their ride home.
Okay, committee, more questions of Jim?
I like the concept, but you can kind of see where a business owner on Main Street is going to have concerns.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
How does the Ignite program, is that
So
inside at all? Or is
well, quite honestly, anything within the jail operations coincide. They kind of, you know, fist and glove operations. So those are programs that are being run in the jail. Again, we have a reentry specialist that does a discharge plan with the incarcerated individuals, and this is to connect them with those resources when they get out, and hopefully to follow, you know, continue following up with some of the things that they've been doing with the Ignite program.
Okay, committee, anything else? Jim, look, I think this isn't a bad idea. I think it's an idea that should be explored because obviously we have a problem. But I think what we need to do is maybe continue to talk to more county departments, continue to talk to the Village of Mayville officials, and continue to develop a plan for this program.
And I will say, you know, this is something we've been talking about for over a year.
Okay.
And it's not being taken lightly. You know, as I mentioned last night, my frustration is I was elected to make sure and do the best I could to keep our community safe. I've received complaints for 5 years, and I actually received complaints prior to that as a deputy, as a sergeant, as a lieutenant.
Sure.
So people want solutions. We come up with a solution, and then they don't want solutions. So there is quite some frustration there. Yeah.
Well,
and I'm not afraid to say, you know, if something's not working, pull the plug on it. You know, we're not going to keep on doing something just to do that. You know, I'm hoping that this other location that's close is suitable. But as I mentioned, that is in very much the preliminary. We had another location that was suitable, that was out of the way in. I guess that's where, you know, where we say we don't want it on the Main Street. This wasn't on Main Street, and that got the same type of reaction. So, yeah. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think, again, I think it's a good program. I think you've made a lot of progress. You've put a lot of work into this. If it were me, I would continue to work with village officials, get them on board.
And that's the plan. We will.
Okay.
We don't have a date, but we will be planning a community forum with the mayor at a later date.
Okay, and then get back to us and apprise us of where you're at.
Yeah,
I'm interested in, although not as much, because you say we have a grant, but ordinarily I'd be interested in the cost
Yeah.
figures from this
Before we
program.
would move on, we would be bringing resolution to rent the space.
Sure,
So,
okay.
Does the grant, is there a time constraint on acceptance of the grant?
no, we have the grant already.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's,
There's not a termination.
there is a termination
Okay.
of the grant though.
Okay.
So, we're hoping to extend that grant.
Okay.
We don't know for sure that that's gonna happen yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, it's, the solution, I think can work, but I think clearing it with the people in Mayville, making them take like part ownership of it and
Right.
saying, yeah, this is a good thing. We can
Just
do
one more
this.
thing. One of the solutions offered was, all they need is a ride to back to wherever they came from.
And then we,
How come we cannot provide them a ride?
well, if we wanna, yeah, well, there's a couple things. There's a couple of reasons we can do that. First of all, I think I would be negligent in doing my duty to try to reduce the recidivism. I think if we're not helping them, when we have a 95% failure rate on following through the recidivism, I think it's my responsibility to follow through with what I've said I felt I should be doing. I've stated in the past that I feel that I need to do what is right to protect the community, and sometimes that might not be in the favor of some people, and I might not get their vote, but you know what? I can't be making a decision based on somebody's vote. And to be honest, it's difficult to get people to give you a ride. I mean, they do not want to get in, and especially, some of the communities they're going back to, they don't want to be seen getting out of a police car. And then, the other cost is are we going to have the bodies to do that? We just don't have, if we have a car sitting up here in Mayville, and one of the ideas was to decommission some of the police cars, which, we always have some older cars that we could use unmarked, and to hire, like maybe retired deputies or retired officers. We've been trying to do that just for our part-time. I think we've got every part-time or every retired police officer in the county who's interested in working that's already working. I really do. They're working here in the
Jim, as
GOD.
far as the rides for the folks, the sheriff's department can't provide rides because we might have 5, 6, 7, 8 people released at the same time. We don't have that kind of staff to give these folks a ride home, do we?
No, we don't, and we just don't. Again, not knowing when they're going to be released,
Right.
To have somebody sitting there, there's been times that you'll have somebody that will get a ride from us,
But-
we worry a little bit about liability because we really have nothing to do. But we'll give them the ride.
But then you have to take a zone car and then
Correct.
and then send them to wherever that person lives.
But a lot of people, I have no problem. My kids have no problem jumping in the back of a police car.
Well,
they-
that's your kids.
Well, I'm going to say, I bet you Mr. Nelson would have no problem jumping
I've been,
because it's a norm.
car, yeah.
It's a norm for us, not because we've been arrested, but because we've been around law enforcement our whole life. But for some people to get into a police car, that's
Okay.
an intimidating and a
yeah.
frightening thing.
Nice.
So
Why can't we control when they're released?
because the law says, when the courts release them, we can't. Now we have a commitment once they're released. The state won't allow us to keep them in the jail.
That was my question too, John.
Yeah.
We
earlier.
can't, we can't say, look, we're gonna release people from 8 to 5.
No. I would absolutely love to be able to do that.
Yeah, that just seems
yeah.
like that resolve happens.
And I know somebody said they were surprised that, Albany wouldn't listen to us and modify the laws. And I mean, I wish Albany would listen to us and modify the laws, but that just doesn't happen. So,
Can just one final question. Do you think this program will make the county safer?
I do.
Okay.
So, and that's why I may get over passionate about it, but I think it's a great program. It's something that I've seen similar things work, maybe not necessarily run by the counties, other than, like I mentioned, Suffolk County. There could be other counties. We have done a survey. I'm having the State Sheriff's Association send out a survey to all the sheriffs in the state to see if anybody else is doing it. So I just haven't, I'm not sure how long it'll be before I get those results back.
I mean, even in the country. I mean, that's
Yeah, I'm not sure how easy it'll be to do the survey in the,
But
there's,
no, I won't.
but actually the National Sheriff's Association might be able to do that. There's only, there's just over 3,000 sheriffs in the country, so it's not we can get that, so, what's that?
What's the big deal?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not a huge number to get out there, so
No, it's
the
not.
national sheriffs, they might be willing,
And
or
I
other people know
laws are
that.
different in different states and different municipalities. And,
Well,
but,
I do know, like even with the Ignite program, speaking with the Commissioner of Corrections, we talked to them and, shared with the chairman of the Commissioner of Corrections some things that we would like to do, and he said, great idea, but we can't do it. And, you look at the state of Michigan, the state of Ohio, they're doing it and they're seeing the successes, but because of the laws and regulations we have with the commission, there's different regulations that we're not allowed to do, so.
I think it's a great idea. It's just the location is
Okay.
the question.
Well, there's more details that need to be worked out.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, committee, anything else from the sheriff? Okay. Jim, thanks. It's,
I invite you all down. They're doing a coffee with a cop at She Sings Restaurant in 10 minutes for the next hour. So,
any donuts with this, or?
there might be some baked goods.
But there you go. Thanks. Okay. Before we leave, this is the last meeting for some of us. Some of us won't be returning next year. I guess I'm talking to you, John. So thank you for serving on public safety, and thank you for your contributions.
Thank you, John.
We're going to miss you. Take care.
Thank you. And really, I appreciate working on this committee. It's been an education, and it's I think you guys are doing a great job for the county.
Well, thanks for all your help and contributions the last few years, John, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
John?
Second by John. We're adjourned. Thanks, folks. Okay, we're out of here. Marty, are you all set then? You were all set?
Yeah, there's
More or less.
a little. It was.